Hello, welcome to our channel. If you're new here, my name is Rachel and I own and operate Turn of the Century Antiques, which is a doll shop out here in Denver, Colorado. And I am also the creator of Virtual Doll Convention. We love to do all kinds of doll things and put it on the internet. So if you are a doll historian, a doll collector, you just enjoy being around doll friends, this is the spot for you. This is a fun video that is going to focus on Schoenhut dolls. Now, I love to do all types of dolls. Now, the bulk of what we sell is our modern fashion dolls and our child dolls and clothing for those kind of dolls. But this shop and the heart of what we do around here is all kinds of dolls. And so we love a little bit of everything. Our mother, and I say our mother because my brother's behind the camera and he is filming, but our mother loved dolls from antique to vintage to she even bought modern dolls to Barbie to everything. And we loved everything. And one of the dolls types of dolls that I have always loved my whole life, that I find very fascinating, that I just think are wonderful, are Schoenhut dolls. And they were made by an innovator named Albert Schoenhut. Now, when he first started his company, he focused only on pianos, and they made pianos and they made some wonderful miniature pianos. We have a couple of them in the front, but then he moved on to dolls. So we're going to focus in this video on the Schoenhut dolls. And we also have a very special guest. Her name is Michelle Brown, who is a Schoenhut historian. She knows so much about the dolls and she is so willing to share her wonderful knowledge base and also her incredible collection. She is a kindred spirit of mine because she loves Schoenhut and she loves Graziano Walker. Those are two things that I absolutely love, and everyone knows how much I love Graziano Walker. And I don't even have one, but she has a few, and so I hope we can do some Graziano content with her too in the future. But let's talk about Schoenhuts. So here's what happened. A wonderful customer sent me some pictures of an early Schoenhut doll, and I could tell right away that it was a special doll, that it was in really good condition, and that it had been in her family for a very long time. She said it belonged to her great-great-grandmother, and as soon as I saw it, I knew it was very special, and we talked back and forth. I did a little bit of research and I bought the doll. So let me get the doll. This is exactly how she arrived to us. But what I knew right away when I saw this doll is that I knew that it was a very rare and different face. I've seen a lot of Schoenhut dolls in my career. We've had a lot of them in the shop. And I knew immediately that this was a rare face. And I didn't know exactly what it was, but I sent it to my friend Sally, who helped me date it as an early Graziano doll. Graziano did some character Schoenhut faces, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But he did some character work and some character Schoenhut dolls in the early years of Schoenhut. And they actually were not popular with collectors, these lifelike faces, these character faces, which for collectors today, they're the most sought after because they are the most rare. But I knew immediately. And then she reminded me of somebody. And so this doll is after the Kamer and Reinhardt Marie doll, which I'm going to put a couple of pictures right here. A lot of the pictures in this video are from Therialts. They take such wonderful photos and have had such beautiful examples over the years. So thank you, Therialts, for the photos. But she was a direct competition of the very, very, very lifelike and sculptural Kamer and Reinhardt dolls that were being produced around the same time. So when Kamer and Reinhardt did the Marie dolls, the Gretchen doll, the Peter, the Carl, the Hans, we're going to put all of those dolls. They were very popular. They marked a big shift in the art of doll making. And Albert Schoenhut, he said, well, I can one-up you. I can do that doll, but I can make it unbreakable and I can make it more lifelike and more durable. And that was his big shtick is, hey, if you love that, then I can make it, but mine won't break because porcelain dolls broke. So he made, I don't want to say copycats because they're not copycats, but they were direct competition. And you can see, and so I started my research and I started deep diving, and then I found the early character dolls that looked like the Kamer and Reinhardt children. They are so cool. So as soon as I posted this into the Schoenhut group, Michelle messaged me and she was so incredibly helpful, and she shared an original advertisement that featured this doll and the other character painted children. And we're going to put a link in the description of this video so that you can have that and enjoy it and look at it. We'll put the catalog right here, but it's such a cool advertisement to look at, and it is in very good quality, so you can actually zoom in and see the faces. And so this little girl is pictured there. Now, speaking of pictures, there is also another picture that Michelle gave to us that features some early girls in cute costumes, and they're holding dolls, but one of the girls is holding this model of the doll. So this is a bit of a holy grail for a lot of Schoenhut collectors, especially people that like really early and rare dolls. Now, I haven't done anything to her. If she was going to live here, I would probably clean and maybe steam the clothes and do some things. But since this doll is right after this video going to Michelle, we're going to leave her exactly how she is. Now, of course, we would never touch the paint or anything like that. She looks all original to me. The face paint is fabulous. This is a very early doll. This doll is from 1912. So to have a doll that is that old and this intact and in such good shape is amazing. So we can date them. The early ones, they have these lines right here on the leg, which is very, very important, and that helps date them. But Michelle's going to give us a little bit more info on that. But before we bring in Michelle, we're just going to put up some pictures of different wonderful Schoenhut creations and learn a little bit about the history of Schoenhut. The story of Schoenhut toys and dolls, built to last, loved for generations. Albert Schoenhut, a German immigrant and skilled woodworker, founded the Schoenhut Piano Company in Philadelphia in 1872. He initially specialized in toy pianos, beautifully made, musically tuned, and durable enough to be played with real gusto. These early toys set the tone for the company, rooted in craftsmanship and imagination. By the early 1900s, Schoenhut expanded into a wide range of wooden toys, pull toys, circus sets, animals, and eventually dolls, all marketed by their durability, jointed movement, and lifelike features. The company's most iconic creation came in 1911 with the introduction of the Schoenhut all-wood art doll, known as the Schoenhut Character Doll. These dolls had wooden carved faces, fully jointed bodies, and an internal spring and metal rod system that gave them incredible posability, far ahead of their time. The company advertised these dolls as unbreakable, appealing to parents and children alike. And they came in a range of styles: boys, girls, toddlers, and even a whole Humpty Dumpty circus set with a cast of characters. They were sold at high-end department stores and became treasured possessions for children in the early 19th century. Sadly, by the late 1930s, due to changing tastes and the rise of composition and plastic dolls, the company faced financial struggles and ultimately closed. But the legacy of Schoenhut dolls endures today in museum collections and doll rooms around the world. So it was really fun to just learn, this is a very abbreviated background into the world of Schoenhut dolls. If you're new to Schoenhut and this is the first time you're hearing about it, they're a really fun thing to collect, and they're super, super, super distinctive. A lot of them are actually marked. Now, I'm just going to show real quick on the back. This one says, you can see the early ones, they have a mark like that on the back, which really does help for dating when they're marked. A lot of early dolls are not marked from different brands and different makers, and we just know before they started marking them, but a lot of the Schoenhut dolls are marked, and that's an early stamp. Now, I would love to talk about this doll all day, but our wonderful customer and friend Michelle has such a cool collection, and we're going to bring her in and she is going to talk about it. She has one of the Schoenhut dolls that have the carved high bun, the top knot doll, and you get to see that in this video. It is also a Graziano doll, and so we get to learn a little bit about Graziano Studios and see some other examples from her collection. So Michelle, thank you so much for sharing your collection, and come on in.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and Rachel asked me if I would be willing to make a video all about Schoenhut, which of course I said yes. I love Schoenhut. They are some of my favorite dolls. If you've never heard of Schoenhut, I hope that this inspires you to maybe add one to your collection. Schoenhut dolls were first in production in 1911. At the time, though, Schoenhut themselves were a pretty prolific toy manufacturer, so they were a big business already. They started off with toy pianos, and then they had their circus, which, if you've never seen, they're like little wooden animals and clowns and circus performers, and that was pretty successful. And then they moved into the dolls. And the rumor is that the daughter of the Schoenhut family kept getting her dolls broken by her brother. And so her dad was like, well, we'll just make a doll that your brother can't break. And funny enough, the first test for the Schoenhut dolls, they threw a doll off of the top of their warehouse building, like a normal bisque doll. And of course it smashed and they took pictures. And then they threw one of their Schoenhut dolls off of the roof. And of course it, you know, maybe had like some bumps and stuff, but it was fine. And so that was their whole marketing campaign, that even though the dolls were, you know, slightly more expensive than like a bisque doll, you were buying a doll forever because it really couldn't break, which I think is very smart because they're made of wood. Oh, I don't think I mentioned that. They're made completely of wood. So if you've never seen one of the Schoenhut bodies before, this is kind of what they look like nude. It's a completely wooden doll. They were made on a lathe, so all of the pieces would be cut to the right size on the lathe. And then the earlier dolls were mostly hand finished. And then starting in about 1912, they were heat pressed. So these like big metal heated plates that were heated up would smash together and kind of mold the wood to give more of the details. And it leads to like a really nice finish because the heat would burn off any like roughness of the wood, which is how you got like such beautiful faces. And then the really cool thing about Schoenhuts is that they are not strung with elastic, so they never get loose. This doll was put together once in probably about 1912, 1913, and you can see in there she's got metal springs, and that double tension is what allows her to hold any pose, which is really awesome. They're almost kind of like artist dummies that you would like draw poses based off of. And that's, I think, a very ingenious solution from at the time. And the other cool thing about them is Schoenhut put holes in the bottom of the feet so that they didn't need a traditional stand, so that they were meant to be like posed in different like playful things. And then all of the dolls, when they came with their shoes and socks, they would have holes with little eyelets in the soles of the feet and the socks. So then you could put the stand in. So this is an original Schoenhut stand. It's just a metal disc with a peg. And you would put that in the feet, and then the doll suddenly was like really stable and could hold, you know, all sorts of crazy poses. And so, you know, the dolls were really made to be played with. So when they started making the dolls in 1911, the sculptor that they had, we don't know much about him, but we do know that his first initial was an M and his last name was Graziano. So collectors, we tend to refer to this like first 6 months or so of time as like the Graziano period, because spoiler alert, Graziano did not make sculpts that were as popular to the masses. So this girl here is my only Graziano era doll. And so she was sculpted by Graziano. Now, I think that she's very endearing and very, very sweet. But, you know, at the time, her face is a little homely. A lot of the sculpts are. They're a little more serious. They are not as young looking. Most of the sculpts tend to look a little bit older. This is also a Graziano sculpt. She was just made during the transition period, which we'll kind of talk about. But you can see, like, she's got a really sweet face, but it's kind of, you know, a little sad, a little quiet, not quite as cheerful as, say, one of the more common girls that is beloved by many collectors now. You know, there is a difference in personality between these two. So Graciano was not the sculptor for very long. About 6 months. We know, based on catalogs and advertisements, what dolls were kind of available when in the beginning. So we know they started to phase out these sculpts pretty quickly. Within the first 6, 7, 8 months, they already had other sculpts in the catalog. Now, the way that Schoenhut manufactured things, they didn't make one doll at a time. They made a bucket of parts. So we do know that some of these sculpts were continually like sold for a while afterwards, but honestly that's probably because they weren't selling, so they had a little bit of a backstock they had to get rid of. During that initial period, they did not yet have At least what we know of, they didn't have the heat press yet. And so these earlier dolls, especially you can kind of tell with the carved hair dolls, a lot of the finishing was done by hand. So a lot of her work in the carving of her hair, you can see is all hand carved. The initial, she would have been rough cut on the lathe, but the finishing was mostly done by hand, which was expensive. This doll, you can see, also has some of the same hand carving, but it's not as detailed. She doesn't have a ton. The top of her head is very bare. The sides of her head, there's not a lot of hand carving there. So we know she's probably closer into the transitional time. She doesn't have the same amount of definition because they were already starting to move on to other things. So how do you know what doll you have and what era it's from? Something special about these early Graziano sculpts is in their face paint. And so you can see around her iris, she's got a navy colored outline. And that was only done for the Graziano sculpts in that first 6-month period. We've seen a lot of Grazianos come up that don't have this outline because they stopped doing it pretty quickly. I'm guessing, it cost more money to do this. You had to have 2 different colors of paint, and then you also had to paint one, wait for it to dry, and then paint the next detail. So I'm guessing that's probably why they started cutting that cost. So you can see that outline, and then the other, she's got it very faint, but single stroke eyebrows. They only did the single stroke eyebrows also during that early period. This is another doll. She's got them where you can see them a little more clearly. She's got just one stroke. She's got enough of them left that you can see where they were. Just one stripe for each eyebrow. This girl also has them. You can just barely see them. Another kind of detail to look at. So these earlier dolls, the dots in the center of their eye are off center a little bit, and you can see they pull and they have a little bit of a tail. The dolls, as they transitioned in the painting, they kind of transitioned into where the dot was in the center of the eye, and it's just a dot. And then they also switched to these feathered, detailed eyebrows. So this was during the transitional period, as they were switching over the sculpts, they also started switching over the paint style as well. Another thing that you can kind of especially see on her, when we compare our Graziano girl and then this girl, you can see here that she's got nothing underneath her paint. So this chip on her nose, it goes straight through the paint and onto the wood. This girl here is something that they started doing in the transitional period, where they would gesso the wood first, and then they would put the paint on top. So you can see in her nose boop there, she has an area where the paint is chipped away right along this edge here, but it still has the gesso coat underneath. And so while this chip on her nose would be huge if she didn't have the gesso, because the gesso is there, only a little bit of the wood is showing, which is something that they added, I think, to increase the durability of the dolls. All right, another way to kind of tell age on a doll. So I've got my little lineup here, and this is going from our Graziano, so the very earliest in 1911, through the beginning of 1912, and then 1912 to 1916, and then 1916 onward. And I'm going to kind of show you how you can tell where this lineup your doll might fall. So our Graziano girl here, something that they did that was really smart, I thought at the beginning, was they put a little nail in the back of the thigh, and the original socks that she would have had a little grommet here, and that grommet would pull up and hang right on the nail to keep the sock from falling down. But, I mean, as you can see, a nail here, it's not the safest probably for children. I catch my finger on this all the time. And that extra grommet on the sock would have been pretty expensive, I think, to continually produce. So as they were looking to cut costs, they realized pretty quickly, we don't want to do this anymore. So they stopped doing that. And then for a very short amount of time, they just did nothing. So this girl here, this is a Leslie sculpt. So we know she's from the second 6 months. And then this body just doesn't have anything. She doesn't have nails. It's just completely plain. And then they came up with the idea, so this is the same sculpt. They came up with the idea, let's put this groove here to hold the sock up with. So the sock would be pulled all the way up, and then a tie would be on top to hold it in place to keep it from falling down. And they decided to do this, but they had already had all of these parts painted and made, and so they had to cut the groove afterwards. So we know that this groove was cut at some point during that second 6 months of production. So we know that this girl is an earlier doll. Then, once they decided, okay, this works, so like this girl here, she is from what we would call like the classic period. So she's got those beautiful eyebrows and the color, and her leg groove is painted. So the groove would be cut before it was painted, and then they would paint the whole doll just like normal. And then we know that this girl is post 1916, because up until this point, all of the dolls have this incised Schoenhut marking where it says Schoenhut doll, and it gives like the 1911 date. That's just the patent number. So they've got this incised marking. But in 1916, they started moving towards a paper label. So if you've got a paper label on your doll, you'll know that it's sometime post 1916. They stopped doing the incising. And you can also see, as they used their heat presses, those molds eventually started to wear down. So like this doll here, you can see she's got beautiful definition under her eyes. This area here is like very crisp. Her mouth is very deep. She's just got a lot of detail in her face. And versus this girl, who's also very beautiful, but you can kind of see the molds have, it's not the same sculpt, but you can see that like the molds have started to wear down a little bit. And so her eyes are not as deep and crisp. The painting's not quite as tight. You know, it gets a little bit less defined. Okay, and then one last thing. With so much riding on that original paint is just better. It helps us age the doll, and you want the doll to be all original. Now, this doll here, you know, she's got a lot of love marks on her face. She's not perfect. They get dinged up because they were played with, and they were heavily played with, and versus like a doll that was very fragile, who if she went on an adventure, she would just smash. You know, this doll might lose the paint on her nose, or, you know, get dragged through, and that's why her cheek is gone. But I find this really endearing, because this means that she had a very adventurous life, and now she's ready to retire and hang out at my house and maybe play a little more quietly. But there are some collectors that don't like this, and they want to cover this up. You would think, so I've got two boys here, you would think, oh my gosh, they look great. That must be original, because you know, I can't tell that there's anything wrong there. But they look fabulous. And yes, they do look fabulous. But when you are looking into buying a Schoenhut, either bring a blacklight with you or ask for a blacklight photo. Because this boy, I mean, look at him. He looks like he's all factory. But as soon as I put this little blacklight on his face, he looks very scary. But do you see these areas of dark purple that are showing up? That is all repaint. So someone who is very good repainted him. So he is not all original. He just looks like he is. This boy here, also, you would think, oh my gosh, he's amazing and perfect. Same sculpt, but you can see where he's got some repaint right there above his mouth. So the rest of him is pretty good. There's nothing lighting up, but that spot of repaint right there on his upper lip, his little mustache, is lighting up, and that's because that is repaint. I don't know exactly why this is. It's something to do with like the materials that the paint is made out of from then versus now. So always get a blacklight photo, or take a blacklight with you when you're looking to buy a Schoenhut, because you want to make sure that what you're buying and what you're paying is worth it. So again, a doll that does not have any repaint will look like this. So you can see she's got a little bit of touch up above her eye too. And it shows up like a dark purple color. So kind of keep that in mind. Now, if you watched all that and you're like, hey, I love Schoenhut now and I want to learn more, awesome. There's a couple places you can go to learn some more. Number one, get this book. This is like the best book that we have on the Schoenhut dolls. This is by Carol Corson. She wrote it many, many years ago. Unfortunately, she is no longer with us, which is very sad. This is basically the Schoenhut Bible. It has everything you need to know about Schoenhuts, and it's very interesting and just like a really, it's a great book. I recommend that. And number 2, we have a Schoenhut Collectors Club. You can go to schoenhutcollectorsclub.org and sign up. And the best thing that comes with a Schoenhut Collectors Club membership, I mean, you get like a little magazine 4 times a year, but you also get access to the archives for all of the club newsletters and information from like the 1970s onward. And so it's a lot, but it's an amazing wealth of knowledge there. So highly encourage both of those things. And thanks for learning about Schoenhuts with me.
Thank you so much, Michelle. That was so helpful, and I hope we can collaborate on more videos in the future because you have those Graziano walkers and I want to learn more about those always. And then of course Schoenhut is something that I would love to keep sharing and touching base on, especially when I can meet people that have such wonderful collections and are so willing to share that knowledge. I really appreciated that when Michelle reached out with all of her information. That helped me so much, and then I was able to sell the doll to her because I really wanted it to be with somebody that cared so much about it and that it was going to be with other dolls and like living its best life. It would be happy here, but I knew it would be really happy with Michelle. So I wanted to show you some of the other Schoenhut items that we do have in the shop. This is our Christmas room, and up here, kind of hard to see. I'm not going to take it down. It lives up here, but this is one of our Schoenhut pianos. So that's one of our early Schoenhut pianos. And let's see if I can come up and kind of, so you can really bang on that. And it sounds really good. So Schoenhut was not wrong. He made some great pianos. We also have another piano in the other room, which we're going to show you, but let's take a quick look-see. I think that might be all of the Schoenhut things that are in this room. I think we do have a Schoenhut circus in storage that I want to show you someday when I pull it out, but let's go take a look at the other piano that we have. So this is another Schoenhut piano we have. So fun for children and for doll collectors. What a great toy. Truly a fantastic toy. Built to last. Made for generations. So we do have a couple of other little Schoenhut items that I want to show you in the other room. So here we are in front of our Disney case. This is one of the most popular cases in our shop. Everyone loves to see it. Who doesn't love Disney and all the wonderful early toys? But we do have some fun Schoenhut toys. So I'm actually going to stand up here so I can pull down these treasures and chat about them with you. So we have the Humpty Dumpty circus tent. Now we do have the circus people and the circus animals, and they're in storage. So we'll find them and do another video on them someday. But we do have an elephant, and he is so darn cute. Again, they are so lifelike. They were hand carved, just so durable. He was right about what he said about the dolls and the toys being super, super, super durable. And that's why you can find them today. Now the really rare Schoenhut pieces, they're super rare, and they do sell for a lot. But you can sometimes find the wonderful circus animals for a really good price, and they look great with dolls. This is not a circus animal, this is a cow, but look at the udders and the leather ears and the horns, which are also made out of leather. So much personality. And then we have a spark plug. So it says copyright, I think that says 1922, but he's a little character. And then we have what are called roly-polies. So this is a roly-poly, so you can kind of put him on the ground and he'll roly-poly. This was a really fun children's toy, but they are often found now in doll collections because toys and dolls and childhood things and playthings and fun things go really hand in hand, but this is really a fun piece. I love how it's holding its little Polichinelle, little jester right there, and it's a jester as well. But the roly-polies came in all different sizes and types, and that's what it looks like. I think it's might be filled with sand or something. It definitely has a weight in there because when you put it down, it'll come back up. So again, a great children's toy, but this is a really fun piece. It adds a lot of just texture and personality into the shop, especially with a vignette that's toys and playthings. So really, really, really fun. These are some of our favorite things. This case up here. This is not Schoenhut, but it's a wonderful early Steiff giraffe, and I just love him so much. He came with a lot of the early Disney from a collector, a daughter, sold them to me. Oh, let me show you the pin doll. Look at this. So when they were trying to, towards the end, they started making the pin family. These were very affordable. These were kind of a transition towards the end, but this is a Schoenhut pin doll. So I'm glad I saw that out of the corner of my eye. We have actually videos on our channel. We did a video with the North Carolina Museum, and then they did a video on the Schoenhut pin dolls, but these are a fun type of doll to collect too. So he's fun. I think that's the only pin doll we have. No, here's another one. These were much later. They're not like the Graziano. Okay, I pulled up my notes. I know we've talked a lot about her in the video, but I did want to pull up some of the notes from some of the contributors of the Schoenhut group. This was the well-loved Schoenhut group on Facebook. And Michelle said that she is a Graziano. She is a 302. She has leg grooves, but they were cut after painting. So she would be of the transitional period of the late 1911 and early 12, which is, we've talked about, but these comments were very nice. She said she was only in production for about a year and she was used in a lot of advertisements, but like most Graziano sculpts was not popular and discontinued when the Leslie sculpts were made. And then Carol said, your girl is from the early transitional period, still very early and hard to find doll. There are very few differences from the very first dolls produced. The Graziano period doll would have had outlined irises and the hairstyles are different. The first 302 had a part on the left side, so I'm just going to show the wig too, because I think that that's kind of fun. Mary said she was modeled after the K-Star R101 Marie mold. She's a great example to have found. And Mary also said Albert Schoenhut came to America more an opportunity and knew the German doll and toy business inside and out. His ad campaigns were totally targeted to show German dolls as inferior, his dolls as beautiful wood art dolls that were indestructible. He was courageous as a lion and was focused on becoming the largest toy company in the US. He achieved it too. He is an inspiration as a business person. So that's what Mary said. So this group was really kind. I love groups like that. Now, every group has its own different set of rules. Not all groups do, hey, identification type things. So it's important to read the rules because groups focus on different things and they do have rules depending. So always read or check with an admin before you post something, but a lot of them will say, hey, identification is allowed. And so this group was really nice. So again, well-loved Schoenhut, but there's like a Schoenhut cafe group. I've never had problems in a Schoenhut group. Not that I get that many problems in groups, but the Schoenhut community has always been super kind and helpful to me. And I've had different Schoenhut dolls and Schoenhut situations over the years. So they've just all been really sweet. So I am so excited about this doll. Again, she is going to go, we're going to pack her up today and she's going to get to where her brothers and sisters are. But I really wanted to show her just so I can share, especially since she's not gonna live here, this wonderful early outfit. I don't think the outfit is original, but my goodness, look how beautiful it is. And all that intricate lace and the little buttons. I did have to snip a couple of the stitches here to get to the back of the shoulders so I could see the back, but just great. You can pull it up and see her legs and her jointing. It's all in really good condition. For being that early. It's just very special. And so I was really glad to get this doll and be the keeper of it for just a little bit, and now she's gonna go live more. But if you enjoyed our presentation, then please give us a comment, a like, and always feel free to share our content with any of your doll clubs, or if you need a presentation for something and you liked something on my channel, that's fine. I love you to share my content. Please do enjoy. I had somebody email me the other day saying how much would I charge to share one of the videos I had done to her doll club, and I said, absolutely not. Free, take it, enjoy. Doll collecting and dolls like this are meant to be shared and enjoyed, and that's the whole point, is giving our information freely. And when we can do that, then more of them get discovered, more of them is a deeper appreciation for them out into the world, and they get preserved for future generations, especially because we are a time when we find out information and do a lot of stuff on the internet. So the more that we can get information out there and put it on the internet and share, the better. Because when I go to heaven, I do not want my collection here, our mother's collection, just to go by the wayside. We want it to go to somebody else, hopefully down the line, who is seeking something like this and can appreciate it. So I want to put out as much as possible because we're just taking care of things for a while, and we hope that they last for a really long time. And as far as dolls, bisque dolls, and these Schoenhut dolls, and a lot of just wooden dolls in general, they, taken care of properly, they can last for a really long time. More than cloth dolls and dolls that disintegrate a little bit easier, especially depending on the elements. But the wooden dolls and the bisque dolls, I mean, they could last for literally hundreds and hundreds of years. So what a treat, what a treasure, what a little love. And I know that we can't all have these wonderful dolls in our permanent collections. There's very few of them out into the world, but to be able to get them in the homes of people who appreciate them and will also share and create content like Michelle did is everything. That's everything to this community and to being a collector and doing that. So to Michelle and also Michelle's wife, thank you both so much. We look forward to seeing you later this year, both of you, at the Ohio National Doll Show and at UFDC. So we're going to see you then. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and we appreciate you. So we will see you soon, and we hope you enjoyed this video. Bye.